We all desire the benefits that accompany being well spoken, the confidence to express our thoughts on the fly, the ability to connect more deeply with others. But what about the road it takes to get there? The journey that you're on to become an eloquent speaker, the one that I'm on as well, that can feel toilsome. It can feel arduous, like trudging up a hill, or it can feel light, like running through a field. And that difference depends on one often overlooked, but in my opinion, vital ingredient: fun. Yes, the road to speaking well can be, dare I say, delightful. And it should, because you won't stick with something that feels like a chore. But if it's fun, if it feels like something you can lean into, then you'll do it consistently. And if you have that approach with speaking, that's when you're actually going to notice improvements in your speech. I'm Celeste, host of A Better Way to Say. I've been studying history's greatest speakers in an effort to become a more eloquent communicator. One French Enlightenment philosopher, famous for his wit and his delightful conversation, was Voltaire. And he said something that's going to guide our lesson today. Woe to the philosophers who cannot laugh away their learned wrinkles. I look upon solemnity as a disease. In other words, why are we being so serious? In light of this, I have a plan for you. Here are ways to make speaking something you actually look forward to and want to do. Each lesson that I give you is going to get increasingly more outlandish. Some might say unhinged, but stick with me through them. Let's begin. Okay, lesson number 1. We are playing. We're going to make speaking practice a game. The gamification of speaking is taking place. And to start, I want you to reimagine your speaking goals as games with levels that you can unlock. And this might sound like semantics, but it's a real shift. It's the shift of turning something mundane into something fresh and exciting. I will never forget the way that my parents did this for my siblings and me when we were young. We would drive through the streets of Los Angeles, which we had seen our whole lives. So how did they make it fun? Well, they invented a game where we had to spot different cars, and different cars were worth different points. There was a whole system, and suddenly something every day, the streets of Los Angeles that I was used to, became a fresh world. It became an opportunity to be observant. It became an opportunity to, most importantly, beat my siblings, and whoever had the most points at the end of the drive home could claim victory. So my parents had turned something every day into something thrilling. And that's what we're going to do with your speaking practice. So how can we apply this gamification to your speaking practice? It's simple. First, you need to identify a problem, a challenge. This is going to be the first level. And then you're going to set goals along the way as you improve your speaking so that you're continually stretching and challenging yourself to do harder and harder things. And as you complete the levels, you become a better speaker. So let's ideate this. That way it looks more clear. First step, identify a problem. It could be, I don't vary my tone enough when I speak, or I ramble often, or I use the same 5 adjectives to describe everything. So everything is either good or bad or cool. You have your problem identified. Take this problem and then set weekly goals to help you overcome it. And each goal and each week should get progressively more challenging until you hit your ultimate goal, whether that's giving a talk in front of strangers or giving a toast at a wedding or whatever public speaking fear or something that feels big, something that feels level 10 to you. That is what you should be aiming for as your ultimate end goal, the highest level, if you will. A core principle here is that you need to take action. The goals need to be action-oriented. While I was reading about Voltaire, I came across one of his quotes, and it said, "Not to be occupied and not to exist amount to the same thing," referring to his passion for always doing something, always working on something, always having a project. And we can apply this in our own speaking lives. If we're not reaching for a new goal, if we're not stretching ourselves to try something a little bit, even just slightly scary, then we aren't growing as speakers. So pick a goal, build your levels, and then complete it and keep track of it somewhere. I have a vocab app that tracks my streaks every day that I learn a new vocab word. It has a little fire symbol to encourage me to keep going. You can have an accountability partner. You can have a treat system that you give yourself every time you hit a level. Have something to gamify it and make this speaking practice something that sticks in your life. Speaking of daily goal setting, I do have in the show notes a guide for you called Eloquence Unlocked, and that has daily and weekly practices you can perform to become a better speaker. So that's available for you. Okay, the next way to make your speaking practice fun and engaging is to inject humor. Make it hilarious. I want you to think of that fun friend in your group who's a joy to be around, who elevates anything just by their mere presence because they're fun and they're joyful and they're hilarious. We want to bring that energy to your speaking practice. And this idea came to me because I was reading a lot about the French Enlightenment, and it's one you either will love it or hate it, but I personally want to throw one of these, and I would love to hear if you do. And that is to host a salon, a modern day salon. Now, during the French Enlightenment, a salon was a gathering hosted by an influential woman, and she would bring together people of different spheres and industries, but it would be all intellectually based, and they would discuss the ideas of the day. Often they would discuss band ideas or things that were on the cusp and new. So it was essentially a melding of different minds in one space. And the beauty of this is we can do our own version of a salon, pick the topics we want to talk about, and make it fun with our friends. So I highly, highly recommend getting a group of friends together and hosting a dinner party / salon where you tell everyone the topic ahead of time. Everyone has to give a speech on a certain topic, and you can make it even more fun with rules of words you can or can't say, or a certain theme that makes it specific to your friend group. If you ever participated in that presentations trend where different people would come over to each other's houses and give PowerPoint presentations on super niche subjects, then you're getting the vibe of this already. There are many reasons I recommend this idea, but one is that it allows you to practice in a low pressure environment to a willing audience, perhaps a wine influenced audience if you're very much participating in the spirit of the French. And you are able to let go, to embrace the fun side of speaking, and to not see public speaking as something anxiety inducing because you're doing it with your friends. So host a salon, let me know how it goes. Now, as lovely as a salon will be, we can't always host them. And I want to give you practical ways of injecting more humor and levity into your daily speaking practice. One idea is to sharpen your skill of storytelling. Get into the habit, instead of just saying a fact, seeing if you can wrap it in a story, seeing if you can tell a funny story, an engaging, a lively story, because that is when you can more deeply connect with other people. And let's be honest, we'd much rather hear a story than just a rehashing of facts. So practice your stories, test them out, see how they do. You can even be like a comedian testing out material on different people in your life if they oblige. And get into the habit, just flex the muscle of storytelling and reliving a moment and bringing someone into the emotion with you, because not only is that more engaging for you, but it's much more engaging for your listener as well. And you'll find them leaning in, and you'll find yourself wanting to do it more, which is the whole entire point of making our speaking practice more fun. Now we are going to get into the more whimsical, more outlandish ways to bring fun into your speaking practice. So lesson number 3 is create an alter ego. In case you haven't noticed, play is a core focus of our practice today. And I want to invite you to play with your identity. The reason for this is simple. When we step into an alter ego, we can embody traits that we normally don't. Voltaire himself, that was a pen name. He was born Francois, and while he was imprisoned in the Bastille as a young man, took on the pen name Voltaire, which lives on. But he, throughout his life, had pseudonyms and wrote under different names, often to flee persecution or government officials who wanted to imprison him again. You, fortunately, do not have to flee governments, but you do have to run from or separate yourself from limiting beliefs that you have about your speaking abilities. And that's why I adore this practice of creating an alter ego, because through it, you can unlock or identity shift into a space that might have been hard for you had you not created this other persona. So, for instance, perhaps your normal self really rambles while your alter ego says exactly what she means and then lets the point stand and she's fine with pausing. Or maybe you in your real life are very quiet and soft spoken and get overlooked, don't even get heard at the table often. However, your alter ego is bold and expressive and leans into her motion, is able to project her voice. What you want to do is create an alter ego that directly addresses your largest communication hangups or pitfalls or limiting beliefs that you think deeply are affecting how you communicate with others. Celebrities do this all the time with their stage names. I recall reading about how Marilyn Monroe was Norma Jean, just a normal girl, until she stepped in to this new and confident persona. I recently read an article titled "Why All the World's Most Confident People Adopt Alter Egos." And the author was describing how athletes, celebrities, people that you know and recognize use this in order not to become someone else, but to become a version of themselves that they aren't yet. So that's how I want you to think about an alter ego. It's not the opposite of you. It's a part of you that you aspire to have and that you aspire to be. And by creating an alter ego, shifting into it, you're able to close that gap between your real self and your ideal self. So your task is to create an alter ego and think about it. Give the alter ego a name, give the alter ego traits, and then when you need it, step into it and embody it. And let me know how it goes. I would love to hear how that shift works for you. Maybe it unlocks something and allows you to overcome the current version of yourself that is more timid, or the current version of yourself that rambles, the current version of yourself that simply doesn't believe that you're capable of being a clear, coherent, engaging public speaker when you actually are. Now for the next lesson, which is arguably even more odd than the last, but that is to have an enemy. Yes, a villain, an enemy, something that you need to overcome. Voltaire had enemies. He was fleeing persecution for his ideas. He often was in exile of his country. He wrote about a little prayer that made me laugh. He said, "I have never made but one prayer to God, a very short one. O Lord, make my enemies ridiculous." And God granted it. You aren't battling kings that want to imprison you, hopefully, but you do have something that is blocking you from becoming the best speaker that you can be. Your enemy doesn't have to be a person. It's often a problem, but it's a problem that you need to be able to name, to identify, to look in the face. For instance, I get nervous when it's time to speak. Anxiety is the enemy. I never speak up because I don't think my ideas are good. Self-doubt is the enemy. I ramble and I lose my train of thought. Lack of clarity is your enemy. Think through what your personal communication enemy is. And I want you not only to name it, but name how it's hurting you. How is it hurting you in your relationships, in your career, in the way you speak with the people around you? Really make it crystal clear of how this has an impact on your life. Because once you know your enemy, the next question is, how do you defeat it? That's what I cover in the next episode, the exact practices that sharpened the best speakers in history. To be notified when new episodes drop, join the newsletter in the show notes. The Eloquence Unlocked guide is also there for you. I'm Celeste. Thank you so much for listening to A Better Way to Say. And until next time, speak well.